What is going on? We are back here in the world of Dokkan. And as you can see, this is the brand new Cooler Returns event. This event is... I would say that this event is kind of easy if you have the characters. But at the same time, and as you can see, I already did this event. I'm playing Dokkan. We're playing Dokkan. As you can see, this event is kind of sort of straightforward if you have the new LR, if you have the characters. I think this Goku is super important for damage mitigation. But this event legit took 10 phases. Like, I didn't know it took 10 phases because I'm not one to read. But I was doing this event, and I thought that at some point that this event was actually to just, like, survive as long as possible. So I got towards the end here, and I was like, I was legit about to just give up because I'm like, this is taking fucking forever. It took 30 minutes just to do this shit. And there was a couple times that I fucked up the rotation thinking that the game was almost over, but it wasn't. For me, I think that the two units that you definitely need on this team, if you're going to bring a Movie Heroes team, other than the LRs, which are pretty good, honestly, I do like them because they do damage mitigation and they do raise attack and defense. I'd say that SSG Goku, no-brainer if you have them. You should have them, honestly. You get so many fucking copies from the Legendary Goku event. I'd be surprised if someone out there doesn't have at least one. And then Piccolo. Believe it or not, the STR original Cooler Movie Heroes Piccolo was pretty damn good. He was really good. The AoE Piccolo, not so much. I thought the AoE Piccolo was going to come in here and like get a super boost. Not really. The only time I saw him really clearing house is when he got a double super, which was pretty badass, I'm not going to lie. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty much what you'd imagine. You want to put STR Piccolo slot 1, Goku slot 1, and then put the LR Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta slot 2. I honestly don't know where I would rank the AGL Goku and Vegeta because I feel like the fact that they don't raise attack and defense turn over turn, it's just the one turn. It's a little bit of a difference from the SS4s as well as the SSG duo. But I think the fact that they lower attack and defense is really good. I actually do like that. Obviously, there's not a lot of events that actually do that, but I think that is really good. And they do 20% damage mitigation, and I think for the first 3 turns they get an added 20% if I'm not mistaken. So similar to the SSG and SS4, they do have like good damage mitigation the first 3 turns. But then after that, you don't really build defense. So as you'll see, the 55%, I think the max defense I saw was like 200k, which is not bad. It's okay, but like when they take supers, they get hit pretty hard, man. They be taking 300k supers regularly. But I guess they're slot 2 units. There's nothing wrong with that. As you can see with STR Cooler, he's a bona fide slot 2 unit. You can pretty much run him nowhere but slot 2, unless you get lucky. But I like this team. I really do. I think the Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta are really unique in the sense that, like, I don't feel like they're just a copy-paste of the SSG duo, because that's what I thought they were going to be. I thought it was going to be like, okay, it's basically the same exact thing, except it's a different unit. I think the fact that they do raise attack and defense once makes it so that you could prioritize the SSG and make them a 3rd slot unit if you wanted to. I didn't. I thought they were pretty good. I mean, you know, granted, this event, I think they have, like, bonus attack and defense, I think. Like, I don't know. In the fucking character list, they were there, so I'm assuming they're doing a little bit more. But at the same time, I think in general, you're going to get more damage output from the SSG. But the fact that these guys mitigate damage, like, that's a W, bro. Like, that's a huge W. That's one thing that I think is missing for the Cooler team still. Because I know Metal Cooler raises defense on every hit, which is pretty good. But he still doesn't have any damage mitigation or like, raising defense, so it's kind of like an L. In my opinion, I mean, you're not really going to, like, replace... I don't think you're going to replace Phi Janemba with Phi Meta Cooler. That's why I stopped summoning. Like, from the summoning video that I posted, I even said, like, I don't think he's necessary for the team, so I'm not going to go all out and fucking sweat my ass off just for this Cooler. He looks cool. He is cool. But I don't think he's worth the fucking hype. I don't even know if people are really hyping over him. I mean, he definitely revives and he gives you a shit ton of HP. But other than that, I don't know. By the way, this SSG Goku was tanking really well early on. But as we get more and more in here, he starts taking some crazy fucking damage. He starts taking like 140k per super, which basically tells me that no one else would survive that. I actually did use a Whis at some point here because I was afraid I was going to get fucked in the ass. But I think someone did an additional super and made the Whis pretty much irrelevant. And I also didn't manage my Dokkan mode really good. It was pretty much like a dummy's way of going through this event. But hey, we survived. We got the W. We got the championship belt. We got the championship ring. And we're able to live another day. Now, this event is very long. I hope they don't add a lot of missions to it, because it's literally like, I feel like I went through it pretty fast. It was 30 minutes. Like, that's pretty long. Usually 30 minutes is when you're using like a full Namekian squad usually. But at the end of the day, it was a pretty cool event. I definitely think it was good, because it kind of felt like the actual Cooler movie, because it legitimately felt like it was literally years and years and years of that shit. And it's like, at the middle point of this, I literally like looked at my phone. I was like, wait, why is it taking this long? I'm like, why would it take this long? That's hilarious. I was like, why would it take this long? This doesn't make any fucking sense. But ends up where I think it ends up being, this event is not as hard as like I don't know, maybe like the new Cooler stages. I don't think it's going to be as hard as that, or is as hard as that. But it's just basically the fact that since there's so many fucking enemies, and because the AoE really doesn't even do much, you basically need to sit here and like manage your units, put the slot 1 in slot 1, and then try to get rid of who's ever in slot 3. Because I brought the STR Piccolo, the AoE one, because the event said like, oh wow, this is one of the fucking characters that does well. I don't know why they said that. I don't know like what special shit there is, because like he wasn't really doing much defensive wise, and he wasn't really doing much attack wise either. So I honestly, in hindsight, I probably would have just replaced him with like, I don't know, maybe Tapion, or I don't know, someone who could tank, like someone who is a tank. Shit, maybe even fucking put the SSG as leader, and then put fucking Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Although I don't know how many turns this was. I think in total this was maybe 12 plus turns, maybe. So maybe the Vegeta would have been a good choice. But the point is, you probably do want to prioritize some tanking units. As you can see here, I got pretty lucky with this additional. This Vegeta, later on, he starts being pretty meh. Like he doesn't, like he's doing all right now. Like he be eliminating motherfuckers, but he's not really doing much later on. Especially when you see these Coolers, they start transforming, they start looking different. It's crazy. And right here, I actually did want to see the STR Piccolo like fucking pop off a little bit, let him look beautiful. But SSG Goku had other ideas. This motherfucker came out here with an additional super and said, fuck off. Bada bing, bada boom. But a pretty cool event overall. I think that, for the most part, I think that these events where they're kind of hard, but not ridiculous hard, are pretty fun. Like, the whole Red Zone shit is pretty annoying, because I think that just the 3 times per day makes it too hard to beat the event when the first time it drops. And not only is it too hard to play the first time it drops, but in general, there's RNG involved, and there's a bunch of bullshit that can happen, and usually does happen. So those 3 times per day can pretty much just be one real attempt, and the other 2 times is that you have a fucked rotation, or you end up having the absolute worst luck where you get supered in places where you usually don't get supered. And the same thing is true where, like, there's been times where, because it's my last attempt, I'll use a Whis even though I don't want to. And then when it's a waste, it's like, it's worse than if you had died. Because it's like, now I wasted a Whis. I'm sitting here like a dummy. I'm now going to be vulnerable in the next phase. And it's over. It's absolutely, positively done. You're cooked. You're cooked. You're basically been destroyed. And it's annoying. I don't find it fun. I don't know why they did this whole, like, oh my god, 3 times per day type shit. I get it takes longer to beat the event, but does that make it harder? I don't know. I feel like after a month, if that shit should just go away and be like, alright, just do it whenever. Like, whenever you have the time to actually play the game and have fun, do it. So, I think this Cooler event that I'm playing here, it's not as hard as that, and I also don't think it has the whole 3 times per day thing. I think only Red Zone stages have that, where it's like, you can only play this shit 3 times per day. So, I guess that's something. Although, this event is long as hell. I'm gonna be honest. This shit was like, legit 30 minutes long. And I felt like Goku and Vegeta by the end of this. I was exhausted, I was tired, and I was wondering, how did this piece of shit Cooler just keep standing up? How did he keep getting up stronger and stronger each time? That's disgusting. That really is nasty. By the way, now that I say getting stronger and stronger each time, I was reading, or I saw, some of the latest manga from Dragon Ball Super. How is it, and I've said this before, how is it that Frieza just magically gets stronger and stronger? Because I know in the anime, they kept saying that the Saiyans were special because they get Zenkai boosts and shit, and they'd be the baddest motherfuckers in the universe. But then, some way, somehow, Frieza just... First of all, when Frieza became Golden Frieza, That motherfucker just did like mental gymnastics while he's sitting in a cocoon, and then he became Golden Frieza. Like just from mental like training, he became Golden Frieza, which is kind of BS in my opinion. But then now, like what Frieza just became Black Frieza, which is basically imagine Golden Frieza except black. And now he's even stronger than Super Saiyan, or not Super Saiyan, Mastered Ultra Instinct, and what was it, Super Ego or Ego Vegeta? Like that's crazy, bro. Like how you just leave, go in like some hyperbolic time chamber somewhere, train and come back out. Like that's the thing I don't understand. Like I understood Cell becoming stronger because he had Saiyan genes. I understand the Saiyans becoming stronger because they had the whole Zenkai boost. But I don't understand how Frieza legit just fucking leaves, trains, comes back, and he's like, guess what? Guess who's been training for the fucking triathlon, boys? It's yours truly. I'm out here, lean, mean, fighting machine. Speaking of Whis you don't need, I just did that. That was pretty much a wasted Whis, because I really didn't need it this turn, but hey, sometimes you pop them when you don't need them. But yeah, other than that, other than getting cucked by 3 times a day red zone, it's been pretty good. I know yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before, maintenance dropped, which sucked because I was looking forward to playing the game. Ended up having to live a normal life without Dokkan for those few hours. I think for me, I definitely think that one of the reasons why Dokkan is like not as easy to get sucked into is because of their whole stamina system. As well as their maintenance. So now you do have like the whole meat thing that they give out, and if you wanted to, you could use Dragon Stones, but I think that's bullshit. But I remember like the reason why I started playing Pokemon Masters is because Dokkan kept like at that time, like I didn't have stamina, so I'd just leave. Like I'd leave the fucking game and play Pokemon Masters, and I'd be like, yo, how come this game has no stamina but Dokkan does? And the thing is with Dokkan is that they're trying to get away from the stamina by having these 0 events like Red Zone and stuff. Or even Super Battle Road, but what's annoying with Red Zone is that it's the most interesting stage to do and the most interesting thing to play, but you can only do it 3 times per day. So it's like, it literally limits you to the content. So assuming that you do everything in the game and you beat it, like, you can't even fuck around in Red Zone because, like, you have three options per day. By the way, right here, I was trying to dodge the Dokkan, but as you're going to see, Dokkan fumbled. We got the Dokkan on some dickheads. It is what it is. R.I.P. But either way, I mean, the maintenance ended. We came back. At least it wasn't as long as that maintenance from 2018 that took like 24 hours. So at least then and there, we'll be able to play the game after that. But I will say, I actually did do this event today during some work meetings. I had 3 different work meetings today. One of them was 2 fucking hours long. Well, it was a 2-parter. The first part was an hour. The second part was supposed to be a half hour. Ended up being an hour. And what ended up happening is that in the second meeting, I basically was just playing Dokkan on my phone and paying attention. I was paying attention because this event was so fucking long. It was so monotonous. It was basically the last half of that meeting. And it's a good thing I was paying attention because my manager actually did he pulled out a high school maneuver where he was like, yo, he's like called out to people. He's like, yo, there's some quiet people, y'all. I wonder what their thoughts are. And I was like, oh, this guy about to ask me some questions because I've been real fucking quiet. But I was ready. You don't catch me lacking. And if anything, I would have just dropped off the call and said my internet went out. You know what I mean? You can always find a way to get the fuck out of there and roach out. But yeah, I did do this during that meeting, and I'm obviously recording the audio now. If only I was able to do that during that meeting. And this is the level of multitasking that I was doing. While I was doing this event, while I was in a meeting, I also got a phone call from my recruiter from Google, because I forgot that I told them to call me today during the afternoon. And I talked to them, and they basically dropped the bomb on me. They're like, yo, listen, I kind of assumed it was going to be good news because last I left it, late July, hiring freeze at Google. They were talking about layoffs, and at the very least, hiring freeze. No one was getting hired. And I was waiting to see if the team I matched with would end up having spots. I waited. The last time I talked to a recruiter was late August, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to bother them anymore. If something happens. They reached out today to talk, and lo and behold, surprise, surprise, what ended up being is that the team I matched with is a lower priority. And if I want to try to join Google in the next, 3 to 4 months, emphasis on the word try, probably not going to happen until 2023. I would basically just have to go back to team matching. My recruiter actually asked me, they're like, you expressed that you really like this team. You expressed you might want to wait until like 2023 to see if they maybe possibly have headcount. And I was like, you know what? I waited pretty long. I waited 2 months now, and I've been patient. And I'm going to continue to be patient. But at the same time, I think the best bet is to just start team matching again. If it works out, it works out. They even asked me, do you want to change your location to outside the country or somewhere else? And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. If I end up getting the role, I end up getting the role. If I don't, I don't. It's one of those things where Google's a great company. I would like to work there, but at the same time, it's not like I'm not going to go there and just work on a terrible team or somewhere I don't like. Shout out to this double super. This is a nice double AoE? Double AoE? That's pretty fucking sexy, in my opinion. We didn't finish him off, but it's still pretty sexy. So I guess the next step is to try to team match with some people. So my recruiter is probably going to get the ball rolling. I would be surprised that next week anyone would be interested. Probably maybe the closest or nearest would be 3 weeks from now maybe. Because the first time I went team matching, basically the way it works is that most of these companies that do team matching is you basically do the final interview, however many interviews that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11. You get an approval from their board and be like, okay, you can work here, you're eligible to work here. And after that, you basically go and interview with different teams and try to work on them if they accept you. So I ended up getting lucky. I think after I cleared the interview, I think it was like 3 weeks that I got my 5 teams I talked to. And from those 5 teams that I talked to, one of them ended up being a really good match. Other one was kind of a match, but I didn't choose them. It was like a perfect match situation. It looked like it was great. Ended up, after going to the approval board, because there's processes to these things. Not only do you need to get a good rating on your interview, but the actual board needs you to give you a good rating. I ended up getting a good enough rating for level 2, and they actually asked me, they're like, listen, I said this before, I've said this before, I mentioned this before, that during my first interview, some guy just showed up with a word puzzle, and I just, I spent 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes trying to figure out what he was even asking. So I didn't do great in that round. Because of that, I ended up getting approval for level 2, but not level 3, which is what I was possibly eligible for. And the recruiter asked me, like, hey, do you want to try to be a level 3? Do you want to do a test and figure it out and see maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't? If you don't, you're level 2. If you do, you're level 3. And I'm like, oh, shit, like, this is a no-brainer. Like, if there's no negative repercussion, I might as well go for it. It's an extra, 3-4 hours, but you might as well do it. So I did it. Ended up being another 2 additional interviews. I did pretty good in them. I don't, there's no way of really knowing. Like, you could feel like you did great, you did bad. Sometimes you think you do okay, you do good. So I think I did well. I don't know what the rating will be because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So during that time, basically, everything was frozen. So that rating was never, officiated. Like, the approval board didn't look at it. And also, I don't know what's going to happen now because my recruiter told me that moving forward, if I match with a team, they're going to have to support me potentially becoming a level 3. And what that means is that they'll say, okay, I support this. They support it. And after they support it, it then goes to their hiring board. The hiring board approves or deapproves it. And then from there, I can either be considered as level 3 if they're approved or level 2, which is what I'm already approved as. I don't know what's going to end up happening. I don't even know if I want to match with a team because I've read online that some people said they took there's people who've been team matching for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time, and they just want to get with any team so they can get in the company and eventually switch teams later. I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly don't know. I kind of wonder what I would do if I knew what I know now then, because if I knew what I know now then, I probably would have just taken the team I match with because I like them. I like the manager, I like the team, and I probably would have worked with them. But then I would have been a level 2 for sure. I would have had to go through the whole promotion process again, go through all the motions again. But at the same time, for me, what I honestly am afraid of is getting to a situation where I don't team match at all. I have to wait another year. My approval rating expires. So basically the way this works is that if you get an approval rating, which I did, it's good for 1 year, 1 calendar year. So if it goes that long where I don't get a match and I don't join anything within a year, it basically dissolves and becomes irrelevant. And I would just have to interview again, hope that I get, you know, questions that are pretty fair. I got pretty hard questions, but I thought they were fair. I felt like they were solvable. The first time I did my Google interview in 2021, I felt like it was literally just a setup to fucking die. If you ever watch Goodfellas, when that motherfucker walks in the room and gets the bullet in the back of his head, that's how I felt. Because the questions were all like vector calculus problems or geometric shape problems, like problems that like mathematically would take me a long time. I remember my first question that I got, and this is just to show you like bad luck was on my side that day, is that my computer's power source died. Like the power source died, so it was dead. I joined the meeting late, and the first question I got, the guy was like, okay, let's hurry up, we're late. Whoa. He's like, if I gave you a bunch of points, can you tell me how many squares occur with these points? And of these squares that occur, which is the maximum area? I'm like, holy fucking shit, dude. I now need to take all these points. I need to check with all the other points and see if it makes a square. And I didn't know how to do that at the time. I was like, wait, how do I know? Like, I knew, the only thing I knew is that I could find 2 points that are congruent or perpendicular because of them having, I think it's either the same slope or inverse slope. I think it's inverse. But basically, I knew, at that time, that's the most I knew. I was like, okay, I can find a 90-degree angle. But then I need to then find, like, how do I find the other 2 90-degree angles? Like, that's what was blowing my mind. So I basically waddled my way through that problem. I barely made it. And then the next problem immediately after that was another probability statistics problem, which is more math-based and more like ML-based. And then the 2 after that were a little bit more fair, but even then, you know, I basically had gone through the ringer. I was feeling pretty bad. And what's funny is that for the most recent interviews that I did, I was so happy because my first interview, I did great. I did great on that first interview. My second interview, I did pretty good too. I did good on the first one. I got the extension to the problem. I ended up doing all right on that. It wasn't 100% done, but the interviewer seemed cool. And then the last one, Word Puzzle McGee, blew me out of the water, and I thought that guy would cost me the job. And he technically kind of did because I didn't end up getting the level 3, which would have been a no-brainer. Absolutely, I'll accept it, let's go. I ended up getting the situation where I did additional rounds, and, you know, from there we'll see what happens. But as it stands now, I am hoping to match with another team. I'm hoping that that team supports the level 3. If they don't, you know, I'd still consider it, but, you know, it's going to be less money. It's going to be, you know, I don't even know when this match is going to happen. If the match happens in 6 months or more, maybe I'm in a different situation where I'm just like, what's the point? What's the point of this shit? Because, you know, I'm going to match with a team, maybe I don't like them that much. It's with a level I'm not happy with. Or really, I would have been happy with the level 2. I have no problem with that. But in a year, I don't know if I'm going to be happy with that in a year. Because, you know, as your years of experience go up, you should be able to move to higher levels. But at the same time, like, I'm so sick and tired of the interview grind. I'm sick and tired of studying just to show up to an interview where the question is fucking ridiculous or the question is crazy. I don't know. You know, as I studied, I've gotten better. Like, me interviewing this year was way better than 2021. 2021 interviewing was way better than 2020. But at the same time, like, I've given the time. I've invested that time. And I've gone through the process, and it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you train to be an Olympian and you get the gold medal, wow, that's great, that's amazing. But I question, like, for me, I question the enjoyment I get when I study. I get to the point where I deserve something, like you're just getting what you deserve. And at that point, like, if the studying is more than like 6 or 7 hours per week, which is a lot, and I'm talking about weekdays, not the weekend, I don't know if it's worth it, because for me, it's not something I enjoy. I don't enjoy studying for interviews. I don't enjoy doing the grind. I don't like doing like competitive programming or shit like that. So for me, whenever I study for these different interviews, whenever I'm reviewing these different information, I don't hate it, and it's not something that necessarily is the worst thing ever, but I would equate it to like going to the gym. Like, really, it does feel like you're going to the gym, because it's like not something you really want to do on a regular basis. You know, there's certain times you're like, yeah, I'm feeling the gym, I want to go right now, let's fucking go. That's the same thing with this interview prep. It's like sometimes you're like, all right, I'll do this. Oh, a couple problems, not that bad. But I think more times than not, it's just a habit. You get in the habit of studying. You get in the habit of going to the gym. You get in the habit of doing these different things. Which, you know, I'm complaining, I'm crying and dying. But, you know, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have a better job. I would have never left my first company. I would have never had as much mobility. And I'm also complaining and crying about, you know, top tier companies. I'm talking about Google, one of the hardest companies to get into. I'm talking about, you know, Apple, Facebook, these different companies where, like, when you go to that interview, that's the top echelon. Other than, like, you know, HFT firms like hedge funds or quant, where it requires more math, these are the hardest interviews. But at the same time, like, you like, I've seen, it never happened to me, but I've seen people online say that they get lucky with an interview at Google or an interview at Facebook or somewhere. It's like, oh, you get all these problems where you know everything, you've seen it before or something similar. And then there's something like me where I felt that way when I did my most recent interview until I got to the end, when dude just dropped a fucking picture on me, and, like, even if he told me what the problem was, I probably still would have struggled, but I wouldn't have spent, you know, the X amount of minutes just figuring out what the problem was, never mind what to do. But it is what it is, you know what I mean? You can't be too salty. I'm trying to basically, I'm trying not to pay much mind to it, honestly. I mean, I'm at a new job now, I'm doing all right. I think that if given the opportunity to join Google, I would consider it strongly. But it's not really something like... If I was at Amazon, I'd be depressed right now. I'll keep it a buck. Because Amazon was like... The work I was doing, you know, I was working with nothing but new hires. The business was expecting them to operate at the level of fucking seniors. It just wasn't worth the headache, in my opinion. Which is one of the reasons why I left. Because the position I'm at now, even though the pay is better, like, no matter what, it was a good decision. Like... the work-life balance was a huge factor. There's no way I'm moving to a company that's like Amazon or could be like Amazon. Not to say I'm afraid of hard work. It's just like I can't take the... For me, what even bothered me more than me doing hard work is telling, like, new hires that came out of college, like, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be working on this. We're going to be doing this. And it's like, you're going to get no fucking time to study. You're going to get no fucking time to ramp up. We're just going to go in like sharks in the fucking water, swim, either sink or swim. It is what it is. And I think it shows because a lot of people that were on that team, I see them on LinkedIn. A lot of people went to Instacart. A lot of people just left, went to different companies. You know, I think in general, Amazon has a lot of high turnover rate. Like, a lot of people come and go from the directors down. So it's not anything crazy. Like, it is what it is. And right here, this is what I was feeling like. When I got to this stage of the event, I'm like, dude, like, how many more stages are there? How many more people are we going to fucking fight? It's like, can you still fight? Is it possible? Dude's crazy. Fucking 10 phases of this shit. It's fucking nuts. Tired, bro. Tired. This is how I feel at the end of the interview cycle, bro. Just aired out. Got no more energy. Don't know what to do. Just dead in the water. But it is what it is. It's one of those things that I think that you just get used to. I mean, I've been doing this for years now. I think hopefully I get to the point where, like, I'm talking about, like, I'm doing interviews at Google and Facebook, and both were easy. I passed both. And hopefully I didn't spend more than 100 hours per week just to prepare for the shit. Because, you know, there's one thing, like, when people tell me, like, oh, I got into this company, I did that, and it's like, oh, cool. It's like, how much did you study? I studied 4 hours per day for the past 6 months. It's like, yeah, it's worth it once you get in there. But for me, when I did that in 2020... that made the L sting so much more. I can't do that. I personally cannot do that. If it took me 3 years to get into Google, as opposed to killing myself for 1, I'll do the 3-year route, because, or any company, because if you spend, like, say, like, my friends call me to hang out, I'm like, I can't, I'm studying. No, I can't do that, I'm studying. I'm just studying. That's all I'm doing right now. That's all I'm focused on. I'm obsessed on getting a new job. I can't leave, blah, 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 blah. It's like, if you know life it, and you're just a fucking loser to get a new job, and that's all you fucking do, and then you take the L, that's a devastating L. Whereas if you're like, okay, I'm going to study, I'm not going to just blow it. I am going to study, I'm going to prepare, but I'm not going to, like, sacrifice my weekends. I'm not going to sacrifice my time out. Like, I'm not going to do that. If I have some free time, I'll study, yeah. If not, I won't. And I even took a break for the past 2 months. I haven't studied at all. I'll probably start studying again now knowing that I'm pretty much, you know, I'm more than likely, I feel like what's going to end up happening is that I'm either A, going to match with no one, or B, match with people I don't like, and then my shit's going to expire. I'm going to have to try again anyway. Or maybe I just get to the point where I'm like, listen, I don't want a level 2. A year went past, I want to be level 3. Let me study and just try again. It is what it is. At the end of the day, you're always taking a risk. You're always, you know, flipping through the roulette, trying to get to where you're trying to get to. But, hey, at the end of the day, just like Goku and Vegeta, you can't give up. You got to keep going. And hopefully, maybe... I'll get a break somewhere where I just stop interviewing for a while, because Lord knows I just don't give a fuck, and I would love to take a break and right now I'm doing that. So hopefully this keeps going because I've been chilling and enjoying it.